Hello and welcome to the new episode of the All Walks of Life podcast. Today I have Spencer Fearn with me. Spencer was a really interesting guy to speak to. He's currently the youth coach at Sheffield Wednesday, but he's had a long career in football, ranging from being a club owner slash chairman at Stockport and East Stirlingshire, moving into industries such as boxing and music, and even later on rekindling his love for coaching when he started managing his son's grassroots team, and then later jumping onto the levels, and I think he's currently completing his UEFA A license. Later on, we also spoke about how he's recently completed his master's in sports management from the Cruyff Institute in Netherlands. We spoke about how Cruyff was an inspiration of mine as well, but how he believes in a coaching philosophy and how he's really passionate for working for Sheffield Wednesday because they are a club who really have a strong philosophy in that sense. Lastly, we also spoke about esports because Spencer recently wrote a thesis on esports and talked about how it's kind of inevitable that esports is going to grow massively in all sports, and how he feels that there is a major emphasis on sports like football, but sports like cricket don't really have an electronics art game that's out there. So that was something we talked about. Lastly, if you do enjoy the content, do consider subscribing to the YouTube channel or simply following me on Instagram at _. Thank you and do enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the All Walks of Life podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, have you been keeping yourself busy during the lockdown?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, learning plenty of new skills. Clipping football footage and things like that. So using Zoom, which I've never used before. So it's been good. And I have 4 children as well, so it's been nice to have all this time with the kids. So it's been nice.
Yeah, I mean, with Zoom and everything, it's always a learning curve, isn't it? I mean, each and every day you learn something new. So I guess that's great. I mean, just for the viewers, if you could just give a little introduction about yourself and how you started working in football and things like that.
Yeah, sure. So I, as a child, was at Sheffield United for 5 years until the age of 16, not good enough to make the grade, and spent really from my late teens up until my late 20s in London working, building businesses, having a good time. And when I was 31, I bought the worst football team in Britain, a team called East Stirlingshire. So I had 4 years there, which was a great experience. After that, I went to Stockport County, where I was vice chairman. We're a National League side, Premier League side, so I was there for about 14, 15 months. And after that, I had a bit of a break and worked in the boxing industry for 5 years in between all this, looking after boxers just starting out and up to world champion level as well, putting on shows and managing fighters with David Colwell, my business partner there. I had a short spell at Rotherham Titans on the board of a rugby union championship club, helping a friend out. And after being in the boardroom at various things and doing the boxing promotion, I started to follow a passion of coaching. So starting off with grassroots with my son's side at under 7s some 5 or 6 years ago, and really it went from there. So get my UEFA badges. I'm UEFA B now. I've almost completed the UEFA A. It would have been completed if it wasn't for the shutdown. And then going across Europe, learning off the best. So doing a lot of the Cruyff stuff, Cruyff Master of Coaching. Raymond Verheyen, going on his courses. I'm doing a management, a master's in sports management at the moment with Cruyff, VSI Chief Executive and the A license. So I'm doing 3 qualifications at the moment. And the last 3 years I worked at Sheffield Wednesday, which is my boyhood club. So I did the under 15s and 16s there with my co-coaches. So very busy in terms of the coaching. What I also do as well, I work on behalf of possible investors of football clubs. So my role is I'll go in and I'll look at the football club for them, produce a report. So looking at whether it's their academy or it's the playing squad, or going through the bank statements to see whether they're financially viable and what are opportunities there. So really my experience in football is quite wide ranging, from coaching to owning clubs to doing a variety of different things, recruitment, absolutely all sorts.
That's lovely. I mean, there's a lot to unpick here, but if I have to, I kind of want to understand when you're actually starting investing into a football club. So the likes of Stockport County and East Stirlingshire. So I kind of want to understand, because most of the football owners I speak to, they say that when you're actually getting into football ownership, you have to take it the mindset that you will hardly break even, or even just forget about making your money back. So what was that mindset like? So did you go into it considering that yeah, this may just be a side business of mine. I don't really envisage getting money out of it. It's just that because I'm passionate about football, so this is a boyhood dream of mine.
That's absolutely it. I mean, I've been very fortunate, away from sport, I've got other businesses which have done well because I've got great people who work with me. For me, the Stirlingshire one, I always say, is a first midlife crisis. I was 31 years of age. I'd not really played a lot of football in my 20s. I played a bit in London when I was down there, but I missed it, and I've always been passionate about football. The Stirlingshire one was because they were the worst team in Britain. That was purely the reason I wanted to get involved with them. And they were getting beat 6-7-0 most weeks. In fact, one season they got 8 points, and a fella, Jeff Connor, wrote a book about them called Pointless, where he followed them around for a year, and they just really grabbed my attention. Jeff Sterling on Sky Sports used to cover them, and East Stirling have done well this week. They've only lost 6-0, and so I thought, you know what? If I'm going to start off in football club ownership, I'm going to pick the toughest challenge.
Yeah.
I'd never been to Scotland before in my life, so I remember flying up with a friend of mine, Andy. Went to Glasgow Prestwick, which we mistakenly thought was in Glasgow. It was miles away. It was raining. It was horrible, and I just went to meet them, and I'm sure they thought, who's this nutcase coming up from London who wants to be involved with this club, in Falkirk, in between Glasgow and Edinburgh. So for me, it was to be involved in football, to follow a passion of mine, and to try and create something for a group of fans who really had been treated with disdain for many, many years. And the previous chairman wasn't bothered about football. It was all about selling the ground and making his money, which he was quite open about. So it was good because I knew, even though I'm a football fan, I knew nothing about football club ownership. So I just learnt as I went along. And we had some success there. We got in the playoffs twice. We played at Ibrox in the Scottish Cup. We had some fantastic times in the 4 years there. Stockport County, when I went there, I'd had a break from football for about a year. And again, this was a club that was a previous championship club in England, a big following, fantastic fan base. And I went there just purely to be involved and to try and help where I could. And the reality of Stockport County hit me within a few weeks. So I invested a certain amount of money, got a shareholding, and realised the club was in a lot more trouble than was painted when I first approached them and first got involved. In fact, the year before I got involved, I lost £800,000.
Wow.
So I knew it was tough, but as soon as I was in it, I realised it was a lot more serious, and I kept with it for 14 months before I moved on. But yeah, it was a different experience. Stockport at East Stirlingshire, they were very together with the fans. There's only about 200 fans. We pretty much knew each other. We'd go for a beer after the game, and a real togetherness of our cause, which was to get this club off the bottom of the Scottish Football League. Stockport was different expectations. A lot of fans still thought they were a championship club.
Yeah.
In fact, they're a fifth tier club, and very demanding. But yeah, I learned a lot of lessons from both. East Stirlingshire I loved. Stockport I loved parts of it. It was a bit more difficult, but I suppose a long-winded way of answering your question. If you're going into a football club or you want to make money, you need to buy a Premier League club.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to make money. And that takes a lot of money. And you look at the Championship, the 2019 year end, the combined losses was 650 million in the Championship. So huge. The Championship really is out of control. League One and League Two is a little better, but you aren't going to make money.
True. I mean, see, whatever you're coming across from here is that these kind of ideas come to me as a football manager, say, when I think that, that team is struggling, so I should manage them on Football Manager. But just considering how you actually did it in real life, that's just bizarre to me. And it just takes a lot of respect to go to these places and actually just consider the ownership of these clubs, because I'm pretty sure not many people would actually delve into these kind of heights. So I want to touch upon, so we talked about your ownership of these clubs, but you moved on to boxing and industries such as music. So how did that come across, and how did you make the jump from football to boxing and music?
Yeah, so the boxing, I was introduced to a fellow called David Colwell, who's on Sky now. He's doing extremely well, Tony Bellew's coach. And I was having a white collar fight in London, and a friend of mine up here, Paul Rickett, is the chief sports editor of the Rotherham Advertiser, and he was saying to me, he said, look, if you're doing this, Ben, why don't you speak to Dave? Dave's got a gym, and he's training an world title challenger, Ryan Rhodes, at the time. And he said, why don't you get in touch with him? Because you two, you'll get on really well. And I thought to myself, well, I'm doing this white collar fight to raise some money for a charity close to me, and it's good fun. I thought, do I really want to get involved in boxing? Because my stereotype of boxing, it wasn't the nicest industry. There's some very shady characters in it, and why would I get involved? But anyway, I met Dave. We got on tremendously well. A really nice guy. It turned out we actually grew up in the same place in Sheffield before I moved, different parts of Yorkshire, and he started training me. And we got on, and he was running a gym in Rotherham. He was struggling a little bit to make ends meet. So with his clear talent for training boxers and my business know-how, we basically came together and had 5 fantastic years. And, putting on shows at the Liverpool Echo with 3,500 people. I had the good fortune to go to Guadalajara to watch Canelo fight Ryan Rhodes, which was interesting. 12 Sheffielders amongst 12,000 Mexicans. It was a little nerve-wracking. Went to the Haykelitschko fight, and then we managed Ricky Hatton's brother, Matthew Hatton. So we're out in Johannesburg where he had a world title fight, which unfortunately lost. So we had 5 brilliant years, put on 31 shows in that time. Some were on Sky TV. But at the time when we started, there wasn't the monopoly on television by Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, that there is now. So there was an opportunity to get some television coverage. But at the time we started, Matchroom and Eddie started to really, take control of boxing and reinvigorate it, to be fair. He's done a wonderful job, and we did quite a bit of work with Eddie. But the dream of the TV deal was the one way you really make money in boxing. But that quickly, disappeared. So we did other things as well. We had an education business off the back of it, where we worked with young people, teaching them boxing and the discipline that went with it. Obviously not fighting each other, but, the training, linking in maths and English and, a sport qualification. And we had a little fitness club as well off the back of it. But after around 4 to 5 years' time, what was happening is the shows weren't making money. They very rarely made money. And David got the opportunity to work with Tony Bellew on a more frequent basis. And the thing is, for Dave, it was more lucrative for him to work with Tony because he had world title fights and the David Hay fights than it would be to continue with me. So I said to him, look, mate, you crack on, you do this. We've had 5 fantastic years. We're still firm friends. We're best men at each other's wedding, and you follow your path. And I was getting into the football then and the football coaching. So even though, we're not as close as we once were, I suppose, because we saw each other a day. We're still friends, and he's doing fantastic, and I'm very proud of him.
No, so something I wanted to talk to you about was that, considering the recent landscape of boxing, I mean, it's not been the most lucrative business in that sense, and I'm not sure if you've heard about the recent prominence of YouTube boxing, of how KSI has been taking on Logan Paul, and that's been getting more views than professional boxers, and the KSI Logan Paul fight is the main event at these boxing events. So where do you come in from this perspective? What do you make of the whole revolution that's happening in boxing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting conversation I have with my son, who's 14, and he's a big KSA fan, and I say it's nonsense. It's nonsense. These aren't professional boxers. They don't do the hard yards. They don't do... when you're a professional boxer, if you're fighting for a four-round fight, you're probably at 900 quid. And then you have to pay your trainer 10%, pay your manager 15%, and that's for probably a 6 to 8 week camp. It's tough. These guys are coming in with the mass publicity and followers they have and earning a lot of money. For me, as a boxing fan and somebody's words, I don't see it as boxing. However, I do realise that promoters will maximise this because it is about making money ultimately. But for me, it's not the essence of boxing and the journey that these fighters take because... what we see is your David Hayes or your Tony Bellews at the top of the game earning lots and lots of money. But you have to think where they've come from, coming from amateur and in the gym 2-3 times a day with nothing, living below the minimum wage. And that's what boxers do, and that's part of their journey to get to the top. So I'm not a fan of it personally. However, society is changing. My son's a big fan of it. We'll watch the fight together. I'm like, I'm not watching it. No way. It's not for me.
Yeah, I understand both sides of the argument. Actually, I understand that if you're a professional boxer who's trained so many years and you've reached that particular level, you aren't getting anywhere close to the money these guys are making just for fighting one fight in their whole careers. But then again,
and I think the fights, I mean, from what I've heard, was absolutely horrendous. It wasn't a good fight, and boxing fans, they're not mugs. They want to pay and they want to see quality, and you find with a lot of boxing fans, they're students of the game as well. But if people are prepared to sponsor it and pay pay-per-view or whatever it may be, then It's a sign of the times.
But Spencer, the thing is that KSI and Logan Paul, these are like big personalities now. So it doesn't matter what thing they venture into, they'll already bring a big fan base to them with it. So be it KSI, who's indulged into music, boxing, that's how he started off with FIFA. It's just that his fan base is growing, and that's how he's taking and full credit to him. I mean, that if he's making the most of it, then fair enough.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't knock those guys for doing it. But I'm a boxing purist, but it's not for me.
Yeah. So moving into the coaching side of things. So I mean, you were manager at Malby and Frickley Athletic. So I kind of want to discuss your experiences there and being a head coach, even though it was at a non-professional side.
Yes, I started off at Malby, and I'd go back a step. Actually, I actually got into coaching grassroots with my son, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then an old friend of mine, Mark, we were at Sheffield United together, and we schooled together. And he was managing a side that were bottom of, probably Division 9, 10 of the pyramid.
Right.
And he was on at me all the time, come on, Spen, come and help me, come and help me. I'm like, I'm not bothered, I'm not interested. And he kept going at me. And I eventually said, all right, I'll come. I'll come in the new year, so I think it was January 2014 or whatever it may be. And the first 3 games, I think we lost 5-1, 4-0 and 5-0. And I thought, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not cut out for this at all. But we persevered. We avoided relegation. I think we won 8 out of 16 games in the end and reached a cup final, and I really enjoyed it. It was great being around the dressing room environment again. I was working with a good mate of mine, and we had a little bit of success. And at the end of that season, we then got approached by a side called Malby, who were 2 divisions higher. Malby are a colliery side, so built on the pits and the mines up until the late 80s, I suppose. And they're really fallen on hard times. They just avoided relegation. Didn't really have a budget for paying players. And I met the chairman there, a fellow called Wilf Race, a wonderful man I'm still close with. And me and Mark went across there, and in our first season we basically got together a team of local boys. I think our budget was £300 a week, which you look at this division, some of them are £2,000 a week nowadays, probably more. So we didn't have much of a budget, but we had a good group of boys who knew each other, and they worked tremendously hard. And we finished 7th that season, which was the highest league position for over 20 years. Went on into the second season, about mid-table-ish. We had a really bad start, lots of injuries, unbelievable amount of injuries. And up until Christmas, it was really tough, but we turned it around in the new year when everyone was back.
Yeah.
And after 2 years there, I went on to Frickley. So Frickley, Malby I would say is non-league. Frickley is what you call semi-professional.
Right.
So the players are getting good money there. Some boys, between 50 and 350 a week. It's quite diverse depending on the player. You get a lot of lads that have played in the professional game, playing at this level as well. So I had 18 months at Frickley. It was a step up for me in terms of management, but even though not a great technical and tactical teacher, I suppose, at that time, I've always managed people and managed pretty well. And I think that's the art of management, and getting a group together and not tolerating people who don't toe the line and don't work hard. And that's been the same in business as in sport when I've worked in different industries. And our first season, we did well. We finished 3rd. We missed out on automatic promotion by 3 points. We'd actually got deducted 3 points for a registration issue, which was hard to take. And we lost in the playoffs 2-1. And in the semi-final, in this game, we hit the woodwork 4 times in that game. I'll never forget it. We had 19 shots and they had 6. And it was a game, if we replayed it another 100 times, we probably won 99 of them.
Yeah. So
we got knocked out. But that season at Frickley, a club with a great semi-professional history. We were the highest scoring team in Division 5 to 8 of the pyramid, so that's steps 1 to 4 of non-league.
Yeah.
Scored something like 139 goals, but we also conceded 80 odd goals as well. So the games were like basketball; they were very entertaining. Won 9 games on the spin, and we broke lots of club records that have been there 100 years. Start of the second season, we were mid-table. We won about half of our games, and then I got the opportunity to go and work more permanently at Sheffield Wednesday, where I did the under-15s and 16s. I previously did the under-12s and under-13s. And working with the under-15s and particularly the under-16s, we play on a Saturday, so I just could not be in 2 places at the same time. And Sheffield Wednesday is my club. It was a tough decision, but I think I made the right one.
Just to circle back this, you said that you started your coaching journey with just your son's grassroots team. So just can you outline the importance of that? Because I feel that modern young coaches, they just want to jump into the professional game and they don't want to indulge themselves into the grassroots setup. They feel that, oh, that's beneath me. What would I be doing being there and teaching my technical aspects there? But just underline how important just the grassroots setup was for you.
It's massively important, and I remember, playing a bit and obviously playing at a good standard as a kid and being a follower of football and owning football clubs. I thought, I'll be okay at this, I like the Dutch way. I love the way that I'll be able to go and deliver a session. And I remember my first session, they're only under sevens, maybe under eights. It was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. I got the spaces wrong. I was asking too much of the players with their ability. And the thing is, even though I played the game and I watched hundreds of games of football, it didn't mean I understood the game. And I look at my development the last 5 or 6 years and where I am now compared to when I was managing Maltby, my knowledge is just probably 100 times, 200 times greater than it was. And you can't just go into coaching without doing the hard yards and starting off at grassroots. You have to do this. You have to learn, you have to make mistakes and not be afraid of making mistakes. When I first started coaching, I was like, oh, crikey, I've made a mistake here. We have to be critical of ourselves. Unless you're critical of yourself and you learn and you're okay with making the mistakes and use them as learning opportunities, you never progress. But what I found, because I suppose with coaching, I don't have an end goal. I'd like to work full-time coaching, I suppose, one day whether it's an under-18s or wherever it may be. So I'm there every day with the players. And to be fair, we pretty much have that with the under-15s and 16s at the moment, so that's good. But what you have to do, you have to be relentless. So I started off doing the level 1, the level 2 of the UEFA B. Did a lot of my psychology stuff, did a level 4 with Anglia University. And then I went to Europe. So I started going on the World Football Academy courses. So I've been to Portugal, Wales, I've been to Holland, been to Austria, to Red Bull Salzburg. And the World Football Academy courses, you do 16, 17-hour days. It's brutal. It's like being in the Navy SEALs. And you have... But what Raymond Verheyen does, who's the owner, the founder of the World Football Academy, he pushes you to see how much you want it. And his view is, if you're not demanding of yourself and give 100%, how can you demand that of your players? On which I totally agree. So I took myself way out of my comfort zone, and then I went to do the Cruyff stuff. So I've done a postgraduate diploma in sports management because that's an interest. I'm doing a master's in it now. I also went on to the Cruyff Master of Coaching course, which was 3-week-long blocks where you're trained by Olympic champions, martial arts, Hall of Famers, you name it. And that was a wonderful one as well. So even though the FA in England, and I've more or less done my A4A licence now, just a few visits hopefully, before I pass it, is a wonderful course. You have to take yourself out of your comfort zone. I've worked with people such as Freddie Lundberg on these courses, which was unbelievable, having lunch with people like that, talking to them. So for those who think they can just go from playing football into coaching and not build knowledge, they're delusional. They'll still fail. They will absolutely fail. And if you're going to be good at something, you have to put the hours in to do that.
So another thing is that when you were working for Maltby and Frickley, were you part-time at these clubs? Because I understand these are semi-professional and non-league clubs. So you were part-time there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was part-time, and it's always an interesting one, the role of a manager, because it's never part-time.
Exactly.
You think about it 24/7, and as you know, I've been away from Frickley for 18 months and working in semi-pro management. I've still done some work scouting because I love non-league and semi-pro for some friends. But the thing is, you think about the game. If you've won when you get home, right? How can we be better? If you've lost, I used to come home and I've got a wonderful wife and 4 children, and I just sit there, just sit there for 3 or 4 hours not talking. I'm thinking, what is happening to me? Because you take the defeats really badly, but even the wins, we won 9 on the bounce, and we won 5 or 6 right. What we're going to do to win the next game? So, and I never took a penny from Maltby or Frickley. I did it because I love football. I'd rather the money be put into the wage budget to get better players, to have more chance of success. And I did it because I love it. But it's, even though people say part-time, it's not part-time.
I've seen this for myself as well. I've never managed a professional football club like you have, or a football club. But I've coached at academies, and even then, even though I have maybe 2 coaching sessions a week, I'm totally engrossed about my team and just thinking what I can do to better my session, even though that's a part-time thing I'm doing for interest. But some people just don't understand that. So for example, you were a part-timer here. let's say a part-timer here, but it's very difficult to then manage the role of a manager, as well as getting the finances in from your other revenue streams, be it business or sports. So just can you touch upon that, because I feel that people don't understand the value that some of these non-league coaches have, of how they have to basically multitask in their lives, because I feel it's very difficult when you're coaching even a non-league side in that matter.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what you're looking at is at Frickley as an example. So we had the first team, we had under 21s, under 19. So it's not only the first team as well. You're looking at what players are coming through. You're going to watch the under 21 games. The way that we ran Frickley was really professional. So we had a data analyst. So he basically videoed all the game, clipped them, did all the stats. So I'd watch all the games back. It wasn't just playing on a Saturday and we move on to training. We worked it very professionally. That's why we had a lot of success, based on the knowledge that I got from working in a professional environment. And it is a balance, and it is difficult sometimes. You know, if you're playing a Tuesday night and you have to travel 2 hours on a coach, you have to leave work early. And equally as well for the players. A lot of them have jobs, they have young families, and being a semi-pro football is very difficult to get that balance. The money isn't always great. You know, you're travelling around and the car share to save on petrol and so on. But if you're passionate about it, you find a way. You find a way to do it, because football is something you love. And, you know, whatever needs doing. But, and if you do it right, it's not just turning up on a Saturday afternoon and doing a couple of hours training. You're on it, you're on the phone to players, you're trying to bring players in if you've got an injury, or speaking to clubs, getting somebody on loan. You're making sure the GPS units are all charged up, and you're looking at, you know, how far somebody's running the second half compared to the first half. Are they at risk of injury? There's all sorts of different things involved. Now, not all managers work like that, but a lot do. And I think semi-professional football is getting with the times a bit more now. We are using things like GPS and the huddle system. We are analysing games, but a lot still don't do that because they don't believe in it for whatever reason. I'm not sure. So if you do it right, it is like a full-time role. But you have to get the balance.
No, I mean, just the fact that you're mentioning things like checking on the petrol when you're going to some place. I mean, that would just be bizarre to a modern day manager, because that would just seem things that would not be on his job description. But I just feel that if you're managing a semi-professional club or non-league club, everything is under you, because at the end of the day, you're in charge of the results, and no matter how things come. And when you are a non-league manager, then you have to look at the results as well, the finances, and everything at the club, because you don't have the resources of, let's say, a sports scientist or a data analyst and things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we look at going back to Frickley. So when we travelled away, the lads would have pasta at 12 o'clock. So myself or my assistant John used to go into Morrison's and buy, 18 lots of pasta, make sure they were fed. You know, do we have the kit? I used to book all the buses for the away games. Wow. So it was easier for me to do it. So I knew what time it was happening. So, you know, the non-league manager probably does more in terms of the variety of the role than somebody who's a full-time manager who has, you know, the backroom staff, like you said. So you're doing absolutely everything. It's non-stop. So but I love that. I love the notion, and I know you're not saying this, the notion that people think, they're only part-time.
Exactly.
It's only a few hours a week. You have to do absolutely everything.
I mean, I guess it's kind of more strenuous if you look at it, because it's just the amount of responsibility you have on your hands. Moreover, I wanted to talk about, so I feel that your life has come full circle of how you started at Sheffield Wednesday as a youth player, and now you're there as a youth coach. So what do you make of that? Do you feel really happy going into work every day, being a part of Sheffield Wednesday, and how do you compare that to so being a professional setup at Sheffield Wednesday to a non-professional setup, let's say at Frickley or Maltby?
Well, I was actually at Sheffield United as a child, unfortunately. I wasn't good enough for Sheffield Wednesday, so I had to sign for Sheffield United. But I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan, so from the age of 7, I was going to Hillsborough every week with my late dad, and it's just it's part of my blood. And I've been involved with Sheffield Wednesday previously. I was a trustee of their charitable arm, the foundation, so I've always been around the club, and one of my businesses sponsored the South Stand many years ago. So to work at Sheffield Wednesday, for me, it gives me a great sense of pride. It's something I care deeply about. It's my club, and as a fan, we always say that. No, it's not my club technically. I don't go to as many of the games as I once did, because Saturday mornings we were the under-16s generally. But I enjoy it. And the good thing about working in the professional environment is that you're working with coaches who've played professional football, who've coached for many years. So if you look at our academy director, Steve Haslam, He's played in the Premier League. He's coached for many years. He was in England as a schoolboy. Darryl Pugh, the head of coaching, had a great career as well and worked for many different clubs, Leeds United to name one. The two fellas that I co-coached with, Kevin Fogg, has worked in coaching for 40 years. You know, he worked at Sheffield United, the other side of the city, with players like Harry Maguire and Kyle Walker. Wow. And Kevin Noman as well, an ex-professional footballer. He's been coaching 20 years. So when you're around people like that, you pick things up all the time. You're always learning. And what's great about our group in the under-15s and 16s, we have an environment where we challenge each other, because we push each other on, and we're always learning and sharing articles and ideas. Yeah. And what's happened, you know, we're all at different ages. Kevin Oatman's a few years older than me. Kev Fogg's a bit older than me. But we're all learning off each other all the time, which is great for the players. No, that sounds great. It is different to non-league. I mean, when I was managing non-league, of course, I go on courses, and I got John, my assistant, and one or two other coaches at the time. But our level of knowledge and their level of knowledge is nothing like the people in the professional game. So working in that environment, it develops you. You know, since I've been working more permanently at Sheffield Wednesday, as well as doing the other bits that I do, the knowledge has gone up. And experience is important, but for me, knowledge is more important. Because you can have the same experience for 20 years doing the same thing over and over again. And people have a big thing about the experience. Well, for me, it's what knowledge do they have? Yeah. You know, what different experiences do they have? And that's key. But yeah, I love it. I mean, it's my club, and it's great to be working with an exciting group of players as well.
Right. No, that sounds lovely. I mean, so something I wanted to touch upon, because I'm a coach as well, and this is something I really feel deeply about. So it's about coaching philosophy as a whole. And I go to university and I'm studying sports coaching as well. So there's one of this lecturers, Christopher Cushion. I'm not sure if you've heard about his name. So he's one of the researchers around this field. So he doesn't believe in something called coaching philosophy. He feels that it's just a term that's bandied around in the media to get clicks and things like that. So I just wanted to get your viewpoint on, do you think there is something as a coaching philosophy, or it's just something that the media portray?
No, you definitely need to have a philosophy. I mean, you look at Sheffield Wednesday as an example. We have our philosophy in the way that we play and the way we want to develop players. And that's what we follow all throughout the age groups. So, you know, without that, what would happen is you'd have a coach at under 9 doing something different to under 10 to under 11, and then it's all over the place. So, you know, you need to have a philosophy. So, you know, we have something called the Wednesday way. This is the style of play. So we like to try and play through the thirds. But sometimes, you know, we played Man City last year, we went in behind them. Yeah. So, yeah, you have to mix it, but you have to have something that you follow as an organisation. You have to have, you know, your purpose and how you deliver things. And that's not just the same in football, it's in any business. You know, our purpose at Sheffield Wednesday is to develop players for the first team, or to produce players that are sold on, but also to give a really good parents and child experience. Because you have to remember, they're still children, not young professional footballers, they're still children. So that's, you know, our DNA, if you like, and that's what we follow as a coaching team. Without that, I think it could get very messy.
Well, that's pretty interesting, because some people boil it down to the kind of football you want to have played on the pitch, whereas some people break it down into ideals and values that you want represented.
Yeah, so if you look at, I mean, values as well. So values we have at our club is respect. Yeah. So respect for coaching staff, respect for referees, respect for each other, which is important. Hard work is really important, that we have to hard work. So we could have a wonderfully gifted technical player, but they're great on the ball, which is 3% of the game. The other 96% of the game, people are running past them. So hard work's important in training, at school. At school is very, very important. And humility. You know, that we are humble. We're humble people. So there are 3 core values that we have that are part of our philosophy. So we have a football philosophy and behaviours and values as well. And again, any business that's worth the salt has values. So, it's needed.
Something I wanted to talk to you about on a more larger scale. So it's about sports and education and how you can marry the both together. So this is about more like your organization, such as Life Skills and the North of England Football Academy. So what's your general goal with these organizations, and how do you want to create a change in society in that sense?
Well, so Life Skills and the North England Football Academy are linked. So Life Skills is my training company, which was set up in 2002 with a co-partner, Andy. So the purpose of life skills is to create a brighter future for everybody that we work with.
Right.
And since 2002, we've worked with over 20,000 young people, 16 to 18. 80-something% have gone on and got jobs or higher education, further education. So that's why Life Skills was set up, is to work with young people who didn't do particularly well in the school system, for whatever reason that may be, a multitude of reasons, is to give them an opportunity to maybe do things like motor vehicle or bricklaying, things they didn't do at school, and find something that they're suited to help them go on and have a better quality of life. So that's the purpose of Life Skills. Like I say, we're 18 years we've been going. The North of England Football Academy, which has been in existence for 4 years. So what we do there, we have a football programme. We have A-licensed coaches. So we believe that we want to give the best coaching to the people that we have, the young people that we have on the programme. And we've got some fantastic coaches there. And then Life Skills does the education piece. So the young person does the football in the afternoon, for example, and they may then do construction in the morning, or motor vehicle, or maybe a BTEC level 3 in sport, business admin,
right.
Care, or whatever they wish, but they're still doing the football side as well. And from the North England Football Academy, in the 4 years, we've not had anybody who's played pro, but we've had some lads who've gone on and played semi-professional football and earned money out of the game, which is good. So, but everything all this links back to is creating a brighter future for the people that we work with. And that's not just the learners, it's our staff as well. So that's important. And I suppose that's my why, my purpose of why I do a lot of what I do.
No, that was pretty interesting, because I was reading this article, it was rather an interview with Per Mertesacker, who's the head of youth development at Arsenal now. So he talked about the way Arsenal want to progress their young players now. So they say that we want to give them football as well as an education. So it's a success, obviously, for players like Saka, who are in the first team right now. But it's also a success for Arsenal as an academy if they produce someone who goes on to become a doctor in the US, or who goes on to do some great other industry work. So how important do you feel that it's important for you not just to provide the football education, but for the individual to come out as a complete package, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we link very closely with the schools at Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
So just going back to that, so we have a schools liaison fellow who's in touch with the schools. So I know, my players, I know if they like Spanish, I know if they like business studies, I know if they're not doing well at school. So our role as coaches is to have a little word with them.
Right.
I said, listen, your Spanish is slipping. What happens when you sign for Barcelona, eh? You need to know Spanish. So, but they know that we know. And that's very important for me, the education, because we look at the reality of players making the grade. So in England, for example, there's 1.5 million kids play football. I would say probably 180 of them will play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So the stats are, I think it's something like 0.012% actually play Premier League football. Some will play Championship. League One and League Two, you're not going to earn enough money to retire at the end of your career if that's the level you play at. So it's also making them aware of other opportunities. It's not just the Football League. They can travel the world and get scholarships in the States and contribute to society. So education is something that as a football club we are on it really, really well, because it's so important. And again, you could have an unbelievably talented young player who unfortunately gets the career cut by injury.
Yeah.
So everybody needs a backup plan. And what we do at the club, we have a getting to know you form, which we do each year, so people move up from another age group. So we know all about them, we know about the siblings, what their interests are, and you have to get to know the person before the player. Yeah. You have to know what makes them tick, you have to know about their family circumstances. Do they live with mum half the week, live with dad the other half of the week? All these things that can affect young people. And you look at the under 15s and 16s in particular, it's a really tough age. Because, the hormones, they're physically and cognitively they're developing, they're doing the GCSEs, they've got a scholarship decision. It's very stressful. So the more we know about the players and the family and what's happening at school, the better. And we're just there to guide.
No, I totally agree with that, because I'm a Liverpool fan myself, and I'm a big admirer of Jurgen Klopp. And he said the first thing he did when he walked into the club was that he made every single player at the club know the names of everybody at the club. That included the kitchen staff, that included everyone who'd work in merchandising or any single thing that have to be associated with Liverpool Football Club. They have to know their names. So I feel that's really strong, because if you're building a community, and that's just shown of how successful we've been in the last few years. I mean, who knows if we'll be given the title this season or not, but...
They do. I mean, I'm glad they won the Champions League, actually, because it would have been really unfortunate last season not to win anything after such a season, but they're so far ahead. I mean, common sense must prevail. Hopefully they do get it.
The thing I wanted to talk to you about is, so I've been inspired by Johan Cruyff a lot. I mean, he's a big inspiration in my life. And I want to talk to you about when you went to the Cruyff Institute. What is your time like there? I know you've touched upon it briefly over here, but just if you could expand on those things, and generally just the kind of atmosphere that's there, and the philosophy. Is there still an overarching philosophy that Johan Cruyff left?
Yeah, so the Cruyff Institute and the Master of Coaching that I did, it's a Master of Coaching, but it's not necessarily about football.
Right.
It's about how you coach people. And on our group, there was myself and 5 others. Sean Maloney, Belgium's number 2 to Martinez, was on it, smashing guy, and Brett from Australia, who's like head of gymnastics there, and so on. People from lacrosse. So we had quite a diverse mix. In fact, we're having a Zoom this week, and we're all in touch. But we're all different parts of the world, so we've kept in touch.
Yeah.
The Cruyff Master of Coaching was 3 one-week blocks, and I would say it absolutely shifted my brain in terms of how you coach. It really did. And how the science behind it, and the neuroscience on how you coach. And it was a tough course in respect of it really got you to think about why you do what you do, and what forms you as a person. It was quite deep, really deep. But it was a fantastic experience. And to be around not my fellow colleagues as well, who work at different levels in different sports, but the professors, as they call them in Holland, just different level completely. Olympic champions, world champions. One fella, Hank, International Hall of Fame in martial arts, president of World Martial Arts. So to be around those people and to learn off them was absolutely amazing. It really was. It's one of the best things I've ever done. It was. It really, it got you to think about, how you behave as a coach. And are you a traditionally English coach, which is barking and screaming from the touchline? Because that doesn't work. We know that doesn't work, and you remember 90% of what you experience and 10% of what you've told. So it's about creating experiences. Because what happens when you experience something, it creates a neural pathway in your brain.
Yeah.
I go back, I was at school a long time ago, and I was taught at most of my education. Do I remember much from school? No. Do I remember the things I've experienced? Yes. So it's how we coach, setting up experiences for the players and getting me to think about that. So it's good. Worth doing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's something really powerful to get out of different sports. So it doesn't matter if you're coaching football and there's another person who's coaching cricket or basketball or any other sport. But if you meet them on a round table and discuss coaching as a whole, and then just talk about your practice as a practitioner, I think there's a lot to unpick there. And I feel that they probably have really valuable inputs to give to you, which you probably have never thought of, because you may have just streamlined your thought process very football based. So I feel that's really powerful. Do you have anything to add to that? Because you indulge with people from different sporting areas.
Absolutely, we have to learn from other sports. If you look at a tennis coach, for example, at Wimbledon, if you're looking after Federer, you don't see Federer's coach shouting and screaming after every point, do you? Basketball, a little more animated. I watched All or Nothing Arizona Cardinals, and I watched a series on, I think it's Netflix or Amazon, whichever, fantastic series. And what really struck me about the NFL is the players take the leadership. So they'll meet, defence and offence and defence, and they meet and they discuss the game. And that's something we implemented at Sheffield Wednesday in the under-15s last year. And this team did extremely well, reached a semi-final of a national competition amongst the big boys. Yeah. Very lucky to lose in the semi-final. But what we saw with the under-15s is it's not about us as coaches and us winning games. It's about how we develop these young people to be independent and be independent thinkers. And if we're shouting and screaming all the time, and listen, sometimes I'll shout across in opposition or if somebody's out of position, but we need them to make the mistakes and learn and understand the game and not be talked at. The more they understand about the game of football, the better players they will be. There's no two ways about it. So we have that culture within Sheffield Wednesday where it's very much the players take the lead. For me, I don't really do a team talk. I just go around and check understanding, right, what's your position from this corner, defensive, attacking, right, okay. And so what we do is get the lads to do presentations to each other and analyse games and stuff like that. So the more they do of that, it's building skills that are transferable for other roles in life.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I had this example to share. So this was about Maurizio Pochettino and his time at Spurs. So there was this journalist who asked him about just him and his behavior on the touchline. So I'm not sure if it was he or she, but they mentioned how they never see Pochettino animated. They never see him shouting out any instructions or any such thing. So they just asked him, "Why did you do that?" He said that it was a really good take on my opinion. So he said that if I do say anything or shout out any at my players, they'll just be frustrated at me, and they'd say that, "Why don't you come and do it?" So so in a way, because there's a lot that's lost in translation as well, and English is not his first language as such. But what I took out of it was that if I've already drilled something to these players, then I just leave it to the players to go on the pitch and perform it. I feel that if I'm just adding any such things on the last minute, it's going to be virtually no benefit to these players.
It is, and I totally get that. I went to watch Pep Guardiola as part of my Master of Coaching, so I had to observe his behaviours. And Pep can be quite animated. But what really struck me about him, first of all, is when a player made a mistake, he didn't react at all. Now, they played Schalke, so they were winning 7-0, so he's probably a lot calmer than he is normally. And that really struck me, that. You see coaches and you see managers, somebody makes a mistake, and they're kicking off and having a go. But, hey, listen, we all make mistakes. Nobody does a perfect session. Nobody plays a perfect game. And that really struck me. But what also struck me about Guardiola is when he has something to say on the pitch, he has the attention of the players. So he will look across and he says something, he gets their attention. I watched the Schalke coach's behaviour, who was screaming and shouting, the players just ignored him. So it can have an effect. Yeah. Pochettino, he prefers not to say anything, but sometimes you do need to get an instruction across. And I think with Pep, it's more about positions that players are taking up, not so much making a mistake. But, if it's white noise. I mean, when I've played football and somebody's shouting from the sideline, I'm concentrating on the game. And you see coaches who are shouting stuff while the game's going on. If you're going to do it, wait for it to be a breaking play. Yeah. So you can get your message across. Don't shout as they're watching where the ball is, because you're not going to get their attention. But different ways, but in football, we seem to expect, particularly in England, that our coach is on the touchline, is stamping up and down, he's screaming, he's shouting. That's something, I saw the previous manager of Sheffield Wednesday. They were like, well, he doesn't seem passionate. Well, how do you know he's not passionate? Yeah, exactly. Just because he's not shouting nonsense on the pitch doesn't mean he's not passionate and doesn't know his stuff. And the best place to watch a game of football is sat in the stands, actually. Yeah. So going back when I was a lad a long time ago, we had a manager called Ron Atkinson at Sheffield Wednesday. He'd go and sit in the stands sometimes because you've got a better view. Yeah. It's very difficult to see what's going on when you're on the same eye line as the players. But a lot of managers don't do that because it's an expectation that they're stomping up and down the touchline.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, I think Louis van Gaal touched upon this as well. So he said that when I was younger, I used to be more animated, but and he also shared that because I didn't understand as much about coaching back then. And then if you actually observe him in the Netherlands days and even later towards Manchester United, he was very calm on the touchline. He basically was never at the touchline as per se. So I feel it's just that the older you get on with years and the more practice you have of coaching, it would just inherently come to you.
It will, yeah. It comes with the knowledge that you build. And the thing is as well, if you're shouting and berating a player, you're not watching what's happening in the game. So you're not doing your job. You can't do two things at once. It's impossible. Your brain doesn't work like that. So if you're focused on shouting at a player and instruction, you're not seeing what else is happening. As a coach, it's about taking as much in as possible. In a game, you probably see 30% of the actual game. That's why it's so wonderful to have analysis now. That's something Arsene Wenger said many years. You don't see everything. If you're shouting and screaming, you're going to see a lot less. So in game, if you have to make those tactical decisions, you need to be watching what's going off. At the back, in the middle, at the front, and moving your head. We ask players to scan all the time. As coaches, we need to scan. So we're watching, stuff that's off the ball as well as on the ball. And that's critical.
No, that was lovely talking about coaching. One thing, so moving on to another tangent now. So I went on your LinkedIn. I saw your paper on esports. So just want to talk about like the future of esports and what you make of esports as a whole.
Well, I must say that I'm a complete novice when it comes to esports. So as part of my master's thesis, I had to pick a project, a business idea. So I thought, well, what don't I know about esports? I thought, right, well, I'm going to learn. I'm a big fan of cricket. So I love cricket, football and cricket, boxing, of course. So I thought, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to look into esports and look at cricket. And I was aware there was a FIFA Esports World Cup, so I started researching this a little. I was getting business ideas, and I saw that 47 million people had viewed the 2019 Esports World Cup final. I thought, this is remarkable. Yeah. I mean, what happens for cricket? Nothing, I found. So the idea just went from there. So the concept is it's using the game Cricket 19, where there's an esports World Cup based in New Delhi at the Indira Gandhi Stadium in New Delhi. And the reason I chose India was because of the passion for cricket in India, but also that India is one of the fastest growing nations in terms of esports consumption. I thought, put those two together. So I know quite a bit about tax laws in India and stuff like that now. And it's a place I've never been. I've always said when I retire one day I'll go and watch England play cricket there. It's one of my lists. So really the project just started and ended up being 29,000 words and 111 pages. So it was just, the future of esports, I mean, particularly now with COVID-19, esports is a boom industry anyway. It'll be getting more and more. But for me, doing the project was brilliant because being 45 years of age, it's not my generation. My son's 14, so he thinks I'm pretty cool now because I know more than him about it. Going on platforms such as Twitch and having a conversation with him about F2 tech and all these, esports gods. And so it was good for me because I knew nothing about it. And we're seeing what a massive industry is, and the future of esports. Well, I mean,
massive,
it just goes on and on, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. You must have heard about this game called Fortnite. So
yes.
So I think I'm not sure was it 2018 numbers or 2019 numbers, but the world champion of Fortnite made more money than Roger Federer playing Wimbledon.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
It's totally
really
bizarre.
Doesn't.
I mean, that's there was another statistic that so I think the person who's the best Fortnite player in the world, I think his name is Ninja. So he has more Instagram followers. He got more Instagram reactions than Cristiano Ronaldo did in a whole year, which is incredible if you look at how big an athlete Ronaldo is and things like that.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, one of my good friends, he has a football agency. I was speaking to him last week, and I said, you need to look at esports. And agents now, and look, because there's esports, there's teams, as you all know probably a lot more than me, but it's a massive. Now, the concept of actually sitting down and watching two players play each other on FIFA and cricket, I thought, no, the people can't surely do this. But it's, I'm a different generation, and it's how they consume the sport as well. And it's been nice to have it because we've had no football. And I watched Sheffield Wednesday playing an esports competition that was set up a month or so ago. I think, what am I doing? I don't do stuff. But you see the demand, and in terms of an industry, I would imagine it's the fastest growing industry in the world. And I know in India in particular, it's going through the roof. Absolutely huge.
Harsha Bhogle is probably the most famous sports journalist for cricket, and I think probably the most famous journalist in India as a whole. So he talked about so he was asked this question, why do you think Test cricket is dying? And why do you think, is T20 cricket the competition? Is T20 cricket basically killing Test cricket? So he said that that's totally wrong. I don't feel T20 cricket is killing Test cricket. I feel it's just how we're evolving in modern society. So if you look at anything, I think Sky Sports released their numbers that they were getting more highlights, that people were watching more highlights for the Premier League games than actually sitting down and watching the 90 minutes. So he said that it's just the way society is progressing, and we just have to get used to it. So if that means
we do it. It's how we consume the footage and the highlights in particular, and because the things have got quicker, haven't they? In the last 5 years, from when I was probably your age, it was there wasn't the internet around, and it was just coming to the fore. So people consume things and they want instant gratification. They want things instantly. For me, Test cricket in England is always as popular. It's part and parcel, as you've probably seen in your time over here. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but when there's Test cricket on, it's usually a sellout. And I think the T20 game has attracted a new audience, which is brilliant. It's getting people interested. And the 100 ball game was going to come in this summer, of course, as well. Which part of another course I'm doing with Salford, the VSI course. We did a project on the 100 ball game, which was fantastic, and that's exciting. But I think I think county cricket, particularly in England, you get one man and his dog there. people that are generally retired, and we needed to do something for the game over here to appeal to the new generations. I think T20 does that. Well, it does do that because it's a sellout pretty much every time. I mean, what about India? Has it affected Test cricket in India, would you say?
I wouldn't say that we get good crowds for Test cricket in India. I think that it's only if the IPL is a sellout. I think the IPL is a festival here. It's not a cricket competition. I think everyone sits down every day at 8 p.m. to watch an IPL game. It doesn't matter who's playing, or it's just a festival season for us when the IPL's on.
Yeah.
But anytime India is playing and it's an ODI or a T20 game, I think there's good TV people, there's good TV audiences that's there, and generally the stadiums are sell out as well. But unless India are playing, let's say England or Australia in a big test match decider, I don't think that many people will turn up. So that's the whole thing. But Spencer, listen, it was great speaking to you. I think maybe we can do this sometime again when I'm back in the UK.
Sure.
Maybe. Sure. Any last words that you want to share? Anything you want to plug? Feel free.
Yeah, I think really for those going out in a coaching journey, realise that you're not going to turn up and be in Man United's academy coaching straight away. It's a long journey. You have to put the hours in. You have to make your mistakes and be open to criticism. Criticism is a good thing, not a bad thing, because it means you can improve.
Yeah.
So I think, bear that in mind, and you're not going to be perfect in whatever you deliver. You're going to make mistakes, but learn from them. But don't think you're just going to drop into coaching and get a wonderful job. It's a long process, but it's one of the most rewarding things that you can do if you love your sport and not necessarily football, any sport.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot, Spencer. Thanks for connecting, man. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks ever so much.